And in the 45th Jubilee, in the second week, in the second year, Judah took a wife for his firstborn, from the daughters of Aram, and her name was Tamar. But he hated her and would not lie with her, because his mother was from the daughters of Canaan. And he wanted to take a wife from his mother's people. But Judah, his father, did not permit him. And the firstborn of Judah, was evil, and the Lord killed him. And Judah said to Onan his brother, Go to your brother's wife, and act as a leveret, and raise up seed for your brother. And Onan knew that the seed would not be his, but only his brother's. And he entered the house of his brother's wife, and poured out his seed on the ground. And he was evil in the sight of the Lord, and he killed him. And Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, Remain at the house of your father as a widow until Selah my son grows up, and I will give you to him as a wife. And he grew up. But Bethuel, Judah's wife, did not permit Selah her son to marry. And Bethuel, Judah's wife, died in the 5th year of that week. And in the 6th year Judah went up in order to shear his sheep at Timnah. And they told Tamar, Behold, your father-in-law is going up to shear his sheep at Timnah. And she put off the clothes of her widowhood, and she put upon a veil. And she made herself beautiful, and sat by the gates which are toward the Timnah road. And when Judah walked along, he found her, and presumed that she was a prostitute. And he said to her, Let me enter into you. And she said to him, Come on. And he entered. And she said to him, Give me my fee. And he said to her, I have nothing in my hand except my signet ring of my finger, and my necklace, and my staff which is in my hand. And she said to him, Give them to me until you send my fee to me. And he said to her, I will send you a young goat. And he gave them to her, and he was with her, and she became pregnant by him. And Judah went to his sheep, and she went to her father's house. And Judah sent a young goat in the hand of his shepherd, an Adullamite, but he did not find her. And he asked the men of the district, saying, Where is the prostitute who was here? And they said to him, There is no prostitute here with us. And he returned and told him that he did not find her. And he said, I inquired of the men of the district, and they said to me, There is no prostitute here. And he said, Let her take it, lest we become an object of scorn. And when she completed 3 months, it was obvious that she was pregnant. And they told Judah, saying, Behold, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, is pregnant through prostitution. And Judah went to her father's house, and he said to her father and her brothers, Bring her out, and let them burn her, because she has caused a defilement in Israel. And it came to pass, when they brought her out to burn her, that she sent to her father-in-law the signet ring, and the necklace, and the staff. And she said, Recognize whose these are, because I am pregnant by him. And Judah recognized them, and said, Tamar was more righteous than I, and therefore let them not burn her. And on account of that she was not given to Selah, and therefore he did not approach her again. And after this she bore 2 children, Perez and Zerah, in the 7th year of this second week. And after this, the 7 years of full harvest which Joseph told Pharaoh about were completed. And Judah knew that the deed which he did was evil, because he lay with his daughter-in-law, and he condemned himself in his own sight. And he knew that he had sinned and gone astray, because he uncovered the robe of his son. And he began to mourn and make supplication before the Lord on account of his sin. And we told him in a dream that it was forgiven him, because he made great supplication, and because he mourned and did not do it again. And there was forgiveness for him, because he turned about from his sin, and from his ignorance, because the sin was great before our God. And anyone who does anything like this, who lies with his mother-in-law, they shall burn with fire, so that he might burn in it, in order, because defilement and impurity have come upon them. In the fire they shall burn them. And you command the children of Israel, and there will be no defilement in their midst, because everyone who lies with his daughter-in-law or with his mother-in-law causes defilement. And the fire they shall burn the man who has lain with her, and also the woman. And the wrath and punishment he will cause to cease from Israel. And we told Judah that his 2 sons had not lain with her, and therefore his seed stood for a 2nd generation, and it would not be uprooted, because in the integrity of his eyes he went and sought judgment, because by the judgment of Abraham, which he commanded his sons, Judah wanted to burn her with fire. In the 1st year of the 3rd week of the 45th Jubilee, the famine began to come upon the land, and the rain refused to be given to the land, because there was nothing which would come down. And the earth suffered famine. But in the land of Egypt there was food, because Joseph gathered the grain in the land during the 7 years of full harvest, and he guarded it. And Egypt came to Joseph so that he might give them food. And he opened up the storehouses where the wheat of the first year was, and he sold it to the people of the land for gold. And the famine was very severe in the land of Canaan. And Jacob heard that there was food in Egypt, and he sent 10 of his sons to get food for him in Egypt. But he did not send Benjamin. And the 10 sons of Jacob arrived in Egypt, and those who were traveling there. And Joseph knew them, but they did not know him. And he spoke with them and interrogated them, and he said to them, "Are you men not spies? And you have come to examine the paths of the land?" And he locked them up. But afterward he released them again, and he made only Simeon stay. And he sent his 9 brothers away, and he filled their grain sacks with grain. And he also put their gold in their grain sacks. But they did not know it. And he commanded them that they should bring their little brother, because they told him that their father was alive, and also their little brother. And they went up from the land of Egypt, and they arrived in the land of Canaan, and told their father everything just as they had experienced it, and how the overseer of the district had spoken harshly with him, and held Simeon until they would bring Benjamin. And Jacob said, "You have therefore bereaved me. Joseph is not here, and Simeon is not here either. And you will take Benjamin? Your evil has therefore come upon me." And he said, "My son will not go down with you. Perhaps he might become ill, because their mother bore 2, and one has perished. And you will take this one from me? If perhaps he became feverish on the way, then you would send down my old age to death in grief." For he saw that the money of each one had been returned in his sack, and he feared to send him on account of that. But the famine increased and became severe in the land of Canaan, and all the earth except for the land of Egypt. For many of the Egyptians stored up their grain for food after they saw that Joseph was gathering grain and placing it in storehouses and guarding it for the year of famine. And the men of Egypt ate it in the first year of their famine. And when Israel saw that the famine was very severe in the land, and there was no escaping, he said to his sons, "Go, return and get food for us, lest we die." And they said, "We shall not go. If our little brother does not come with us, we shall not go." And Israel saw that if he did not send him with him, they would all be destroyed due to the famine. And Reuben said, "Place him in my hands, and if I do not return him to you, kill both of my sons for his life." And he said to him, "He will not go with you." And Judah drew near and said, "Send him with me, and if I do not return him to you, I will be guilty before you all the days of my life." And he sent him with him in the 2nd year of that week, on the 1st of the month, and they arrived at the district of the Egypt with all those who were traveling there. And their presents were in their hands, stacte, almonds, terebinth nuts, and pure honey. And they arrived and stood before Joseph, and he saw Benjamin his brother, and he knew him. And he said to them, "Is this your little brother?" And they said to him, "He is." And he said, "May the Lord be merciful to you, my son." And he sent him into his house. And he brought Simeon to them, and made a banquet for them. And they presented him with his gift, which they brought in their hands. And they ate before him. And he gave a portion to all of them. And he increased Benjamin's portion 7 times more than any of their portions. And they ate and drank, and got up and stayed with their asses. And Joseph thought of an idea by means of which he might learn their thoughts, whether they had thoughts of peace for one another. And he said to the man who was over his house, "Fill all their bags with food for them, and also return their money to them in the midst of their containers. And place my cup from which I drink, the silver cup, in the bag of the youngest one, and send them off." And he did as Joseph told him, and he filled all their bags for them with food. And he also put their money in their bags, and the cup he put in Benjamin's bag. And at daybreak in the morning they went. And it came to pass when they departed from there that Joseph said to the man of his house, "Pursue them, run and reproach them, saying, 'You have repaid me evil in place of good. You have robbed me of the silver cup from which my Lord drinks. And return to me their little brother, and hurry, bring him before I go to my judgment seat.'" And he ran after them and spoke to them according to these words. And they said to him, May God forbid that your servants would do this thing, or steal any vessel from your Lord's house. But rather, our money which we found at first in our bags your servants have brought back from the land of Canaan. Therefore, why would we steal any vessel? Behold, search both us and our animals, and wherever you find the cup in the bag of any one of our men, let him be killed. And both we and our asses will become slaves to your Lord. And he said to them, It will not be so, but with the man with whom I find it, he alone, I will take as a servant, but you will return in peace to your house. And when he searched their baggage, he started from the eldest and ended with the youngest. And it was found in the bag of Benjamin. And they tore their clothes and loaded their donkeys and returned to the city. And they reached Joseph's house. And they all bowed to him with their face on the ground. And Joseph said to them, You have done evil. And they said, What can we say? With what can we defend ourselves? Our Lord has found the guilt of his servants. Behold, we are servants of our Lord, and also our donkeys. And Joseph said to them, I fear the Lord. You, go to your houses, but let your brother alone be my servant, because you have done evil. Did you not know that a man would be pleased with his cup, as I am with this cup? And you stole it from me? And Judah said, I pray, O Lord, let me, your servant, speak a word in my Lord's ear. His mother bore 2 brothers to our father, your servant. One went forth and was lost, and was not found, and he alone was left from his mother. And your servant, our father, loves him, and his life is bound with the life of this one. And it will come to pass that if we go to your servant, our father, and if the lad is not with us, he will die, and he will bring down our father to death with sorrow. And let me, your servant, remain alone instead of the child as a servant to my Lord. And let the lad go with his brothers, because I was put as a pledge for him at the hand of your servant, our father. And if I should not return him to your servant, will always be guilty to our father. And Joseph saw that the heart of all of them was one in accord with one another for good, and he was unable to control his emotion. And he told them that he was Joseph. And he conversed with them in the Hebrew language, and embraced their necks and wept. But they did not recognize him, and they began to weep. And he said to them, Do not weep for me, but hasten and bring my father to me, and I shall see him before I die, even as the eyes of my brother Benjamin see. For behold, this is the 2nd year of famine, and there will still be 5 years, and there will be no harvest or fruit of the tree or plowing. Hasten, come down, you and your households, lest you be destroyed in the famine. And you shall not grieve for your possessions, for the Lord has sent me first to prepare before you, so that many people might live. And tell my father that I am still alive, and behold, you were seeing that the Lord ordained me as a father to the Pharaoh, and so that I might rule in his house and over all the land of Egypt. And tell my father about all my honor and all the wealth and honor which the Lord has given to me. And by the word of the mouth of the Pharaoh he gave them chariots and provisions for the way, and he gave them all clothing of many colors and money. And he also sent to their father clothing and money, and 10 asses which were carrying wheat. And he sent them off. And they went up, and they told their father that Joseph was alive, and that he was distributing grain to all the people of the land. And he ruled over all the land of Egypt. And their father did not believe, because there was a confusion in his mind. And after this he saw the chariots which Joseph sent, and the life of his soul was renewed. And he said, It is enough for me if Joseph is alive. I will go down, and I will see him before I die. And Israel rose up from Haran, from his house on the 1st of the 3rd month. And he went by the way of the well of the oath. And he offered up a sacrifice to the God of his father Isaac on the 7th day of that month. Then Jacob recalled the dream which he dreamed in Bethel, and he was afraid to go down into Egypt. And he was planning to send Joseph so that he might come to him, and he would not go down. He remained there 7 days to learn if he would see a vision concerning whether he should remain or go down. And he observed the feast of the harvest of the first fruits from old wheat, for there was not in the whole land of Canaan a handful of any seed in the land, because there was a famine for all the wild animals and the cattle and the birds and also man.